Welcome to episode 38 of Healthier and Happier Humans. I'm Ashley McGee, and I am with one of my favorite people, best friend, Anthony Maldonado, and I'm so excited to talk. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I just have to start with saying I love our friendship because we went to the academy together, and no matter how much time or life has passed, every time we reconnect, it's like no time has passed.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's crazy because there aren't a lot of people that I could go 6 months, a year, 2 years without talking to, and then just meet up or talk on the phone, and it's like you catch up like you've spoken the day before. So, yeah, definitely something special.
I love it. So I guess I spoiled a little bit that you did go to the academy, but I always like to start with what your link to the military is and what your experience was in the military.
Sure. I am a Navy veteran. I graduated from the Naval Academy in 2012, so just before Ashley. And I served as a surface warfare officer for 8 years, and I separated from the Navy back this past October. And the time has flown since I've gotten out. It's definitely gone by quickly.
I was gonna say, you're coming up on a year. It feels like you just got out.
Yeah. No, it totally does. It totally feels like it was just yesterday.
That's so funny. Yeah, and of course you graduated a year before me, and all of my friends were in your class, so I just had to find new my senior year. It's like all my friends left me.
Yeah, we just kind of took you into our little class of 12 circle.
No, it was the best. Yeah, and so with being at the academy and then in being in the Navy, how did you feel about your health and your body, all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, there was always, so I guess I'll start with, I kind of always struggled with my weight, with my body image. I was active as a child. I played sports in middle school and in high school, and I always felt like I was in shape. I was definitely in better shape or just as good shape as all of my classmates in high school were. And then I got to the Naval Academy, and I thought to myself, wow, these people are in a completely different category of fitness than I am. And it definitely played a lot, in my headspace, because, there was this added pressure of, not only do you have to get good grades and be proficient at all the military stuff, but there's this added pressure of you have to look a certain way, you have to score, a certain score on your physical readiness test. So there was a lot of pressure that I probably added on to myself. On my image, I did a lot of crash dieting in college, a lot of, no breakfast, lunch is a tuna sandwich, and dinner is one of those small little pre-made cups of dry cereal. And it was miserable. Was I the skinniest I ever was my junior year because of that? Sure. But was I happy? Absolutely not. So, I think I really started to get a good handle on my personal health and what felt good to me and what felt right to me, probably, around 2016, 2017. I did a lot of deployments between graduating and that point. So, it was really hard to stay focused on my health and wellness throughout those deployments, because, for a week or two, you'll have fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, and you're having all these great salads. And then that runs out, and you're stuck with, cold spaghetti noodles in your salad bar because it's pasta salad day, or, what have you. So once I settled down and I wasn't out to sea anymore, I realized, I was chasing all of these different diets. I was trying every new fad under the sun. And I just wasn't happy. So I started to focus less on what everyone else was doing and more on what felt good to me, what felt good to my body, both in terms of working out and what I was eating. And now I'm in a space where, am I 100% at all of my health and wellness goals? No, certainly not. But I'm in a much more comfortable place with where I am and how I've gotten here.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I mean, I think we used to be running buddies actually, because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we used to work out together. Us struggled.
Yeah. I mean, and that, you know, that one run felt like, you know, the hardest workout of the day. And then you look at other people that are doing like 3, 4 workouts a day. And it was definitely a major mind screw.
Yeah. Well, plus, like for the record, for everyone that doesn't know, you were a chem major. So academically, you were working your tail off like all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. I look back and I look at those 4 years and I think to myself, would I be able to do that now? Obviously, I'm sure I would be, but there's just there was just so much on my plate, you know, with academics, with the physical mission, all of the extracurriculars that I was doing. You know, my cup definitely ran over
Yeah.
when we were students there.
Yeah. So, and you know, we're recording this during Pride Month. The episode's going to drop the last week of Pride, which is really exciting. And so, I do want to ask, you know, if I remember correctly, you weren't out at the academy. So,
Yeah. So
can you talk about like the identity struggle there and what that felt?
yeah, yeah, sure. So I guess my coming out story actually kind of takes place over the course of probably the better part of a decade. It started in high school, my senior year of high school, when MySpace was a thing. So if anyone if anyone watching this is a little bit older, you'll remember MySpace. And I remember one night, senior year, it was like 2 in the morning. I just changed my interested in or looking for or whatever it had in your MySpace bio at the time to men. And the next day, and I didn't say anything to anyone. I just did it in the middle of the night and went about my night. Woke up for school the next day, and my friends didn't have the best reaction. So that kind of pushed me back into the closet a little bit, and then going into the Naval Academy with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and just the hyper masculine environment that the military is. It was really intimidating. You know, there was always a part of me that wanted to fit in, and I didn't feel like I was fitting in fully because, you know, there were all these rumors, and then that tied in with, you know, the physical aspects of things and saying, you know, well, I'm not in the same shape as they are, or I'm not doing as well on my physical tests as they are. So, you know, it was really hard. There were a lot of, you know, secret weekends where I would kind of escape off to Baltimore or DC, or I'd go home to New York. And I wasn't out, but I would go, you know, once I was 21, I would go to gay bars and I would go on dates with people, but it was never, you know, within a 30 to 50 mile radius of school, because I was terrified of anyone knowing. And it was pretty much like that for most of my time at the Naval Academy. There were, you know, a lot of times where, you know, I was afraid to just get comfortable around people because I didn't want to slip up and say something or, you know, do certain mannerisms or speak a certain way. You know, I speak with my hands a lot, and I always have. And I was so self-conscious about all of those little things about me that make me me. And then finally, after I graduated, I was dating a female classmate of mine, and she's actually one of my best friends to this day. She's been a friend since day one of the Naval Academy, and you know, I thought to myself, you know, maybe I can do this. I can be committed to a woman. It's not exactly what I want, but I think I can do it. So I proposed to her, and you know, that actually wound up being one of the best and worst decisions that I've made in my life. You know, I realized in that moment after I did it, this isn't right. I need to stop running from this. And I didn't do a big, you know, thing about it when I came out. I told the other women in my wardroom on the ship, and you know, they were all my really close friends, and they were all super accepting. So I told them first, and they were all happy to hear it. And then I kind of just let everyone else find out. There aren't many people that I actually called and had a conversation with, mainly because I recognize that coming out isn't something that you do once. It's something that you do every single time you go somewhere new, you meet someone new, you start a new job, you join a new team, you're reintroducing yourself and you're re-coming out. So, for me mentally, the easiest way to do it was just to tell the people that were important to me, and over time, everyone would find out. And I think by the majority, I was accepted. Both, the sailors that I was leading and my fellow officers in the wardroom, there was a lot of support, a lot of allyship there. But there were also some people that weren't okay with it, and there were two chiefs that I vividly remember that didn't want to. They weren't in my department, but I had to work with them because of some collateral duties I had, and they were very, very, very resistant and hesitant to wanting to work with me. One actually gave up his position in MWR because he didn't want to work with me as the MWR officer. So, there was definitely some I don't know if discrimination is the right word for it, but there was definitely some resistance and closed-mindedness when it came to working with a man who was openly gay. But there was definitely a lot of allyship as well. And I was lucky enough, the doctor on my ship for the first two and a half years on board, he was also gay. So there were two gay men in the wardroom, which was great. I confided a lot in him and went to advice for him a lot as well. So, definitely a supportive core group of people around me.
That's awesome that you had like such great support system, because I can imagine it's really scary. I'm kind of like gradually going through this right now. I basically, once I was already married, I kind of realized that I'm bi. And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm in what on its surface is like a heterosexual relationship. No one would think anything of it. Like I don't have to say anything, right? But I'm like,
right.
But like it's kind of part of my identity. Like I don't know.
Exactly. And if you don't say anything, then you're not showing people the full and true version of yourself. And that's why now I wear what I want, I speak how I want, I do what I want. And if people have a problem with it, then that's okay. I don't like olives, but that doesn't mean that I'm never gonna look at an olive. So
I'm just laughing. Like, Ryan doesn't like olives either, and I'm like, why? Who doesn't like olives? I didn't know. Not that that's the main takeaway of this conversation, but
yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the Navy, especially, well, military in general, I guess, like there's this like small contingent. I think it's getting smaller and I think it's getting better, but there's this like small contingent of like old white dudes that are so resistant. And it's like I remember getting to my first ship in 2013 and having a chief tell me he didn't think women should be in the Navy. And I'm like, where the hell have you been, dude? Right?
Yeah.
So to me, it feels like it's improving as those people start to phase out. But I'm curious, about your perception as well there.
Yeah, I definitely think it's improving. I think that things are moving in the right direction in the military in terms of inclusivity for everyone, regardless of whether it's orientation or race. I think it's getting better. I think there's a long way to go, but I think the right steps are being made. And I think as younger generations enter the military and kind of that older, the old guard, so to say, is retiring, we're seeing a lot of those changes shift. I mean, even there are admirals and generals that are making statements and speaking out about some of the different injustices going on in the world right now, and some of them have made Pride Month proclamations. So I don't think when we first commissioned, we would have seen that as freely and as openly as they're doing it now. So, I think there's definitely progress. I think, those negative mindsets are in the minority. And, I think it's our job as younger people in the military. Granted, my time is up, but you're still in it, just to keep changing those minds and keep educating and helping people grow and push the military forward.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to hear about, because you're like intersectionality is important, right? And you're at an intersection between, being a person of color and also in the LGBTQ community. So can you tell me a little bit about experiences there and how you think that has, impacted your experiences in the world, really?
Right. I have experienced a lot more negativity because of my skin color than I have my orientation in my life. I have pretty much always gone to predominantly Caucasian schools. My parents worked really hard to send me to private school growing up, and then the Naval Academy, which is a predominantly white school. So, it was always hard because from the bat, I didn't automatically fit in because I didn't look like everyone else. There were a lot of times where people at the Naval Academy, both student and faculty, have made comments to me like, you're only a quota, or you want to major in chemistry? No one like you would succeed in that major. So there were some tough times because of the color of my skin, and for a long time I was, if ashamed is a word I can put on what I was when I was accepting being gay, then I was definitely ashamed of my skin tone as well. I always wished I was lighter. I wish I had lighter hair. I wish my hair wasn't as curly as it naturally is. There were all of these things about me, about how I looked, and things that I couldn't change, that caused me to have these experiences that were hurtful and played mentally a lot with it. So, but much like what we were talking about with homosexuality, with my race, there was always people who were super supportive and saw me for who I am and saw me for my heritage and my background and where I'm from. And then there were also, people that didn't feel the same way, and didn't think I deserved a spot where I was, or didn't think I deserved any of the positions or awards that I got. Because in their eyes, I was just a quota. We had three white people win the award, and we needed a brown person. So you're that brown person, was kind of how it felt. And I would like to say that is changing. But I think that there are people that will discriminate against someone for the color of their skin everywhere, especially in the military. And it's sad. It's certainly not what I expected when I was going into it, but I hope that it's changing, and I hope that it's getting better. And I just think it's so important for people to educate themselves and be vocal about what they've learned, and be vocal about their experiences, because what people don't realize too is they think, well, maybe my experience isn't as important as someone else's, or maybe it wasn't as big as someone else's. But let me tell you, every little experience is valid. Obviously, there are different degrees of experiences, but your experience is just as valid as the next person's, regardless of the actual matter of the experience.
Yeah, that's something that I've, in the personal work and development education I'm doing right now, with Black Lives Matter movement and everything going on is, and I think this is something that's really common in white people, is that like the teaching of like not to see race. So I was like, we never had conversations. Like, you and I have been friends for years. I've never asked you about your experience as a person of color, because I was taught that was bad. But now it's like, I wasn't ever acknowledging or even caring to acknowledge your experience. I think that's something that I hope people are really taking to heart right now. I mean, how has it helped for you, like having those conversations finally, and people asking questions? I'm sure it's been different.
Yeah, it's definitely been different. You know, up until recently, a lot of my race conversations stayed between myself and my other Black and brown friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never really had race conversations with my white friends, partially because I didn't know how to express myself as a man of color, but also, you know, partially because there was a level of discomfort because that wasn't a conversation that any of my white friends ever really had to
Yeah.
have. You know, so it's almost cathartic having these conversations with people that you wouldn't necessarily have had them with 6 months ago. And it's interesting seeing the things that they were or weren't taught from a young age, and interesting seeing, you know, the self-education that they've been doing and the growth that they've had even in just a small amount of time. I would say within the last month, a lot of my white friends have definitely opened their eyes and started reading, you know, and they knew that racial injustice was there, but they didn't really look much into it. They would maybe tweet about it once or post one Instagram post about it and then say, okay, I did my part. Now I'm going to go on with my day. And that's what I think is so great about the movement that's happening right now, is because, you know, America had no choice but to watch the news and watch the video of George Floyd because we were home. You know, for the first time, the entire country or majority of the country was sitting in our home offices, where, you know, my home office is my living room couch. And, you know, we were sitting in our home offices and the news was on in the background, and, you know, we had no option but to watch. So it's been an amazing experience seeing, humbling, but amazing at the same time. You know, I live in Washington, D.C., and, you know, I went down to the White House right over in Lafayette Square, Black Lives Matter Plaza, and protested a decent amount, especially in the beginning. And it's been such an amazing experience seeing all of the different people, you know, all different ages, colors, you know, shapes and sizes, and it's great. I think we're moving in the right direction. But, you know, the important thing, and the thing that I stress to everyone that I talk to about this is, you know, the fight is not just something that's this week while the news cycle is still on it. You know, it's not just yesterday and today, it's tomorrow and every single day after that. You know, we have to keep pushing for these injustices to stop, because that's the only way we're going to get better as a society.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the more that we have these conversations, the more people get comfortable being uncomfortable. And,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, because
Yeah.
and I'm definitely still seeing it, you know, and I've been limiting my social media just for like my own self-care.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think like every time that there's change knocking at the door, you're gonna have people that are scared. And
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get scared into inaction, get scared into, you know, being defensive and divisive, or get scared into, okay, like I'm scared, but I'm going to step into
Mm-hmm.
courage to do it anyway. Um,
Right.
and I
Right.
think
And
more than ever, like that's what we're seeing right now.
exactly. Yeah. And you said something that's actually really funny that you said it. So my kind of personal mantra for, you know, the year of 2020, and I think I'm going to keep it moving forward, is to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And, you know, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not taking the right steps to grow and better yourself. So, you know, you kind of started what you were just saying with that, and it definitely rings true to me. And I tell people all the time too, if it's uncomfortable, it's because it's good. You know, the discomfort is good because it means that you're growing. It means that you're looking at things from a perspective that you didn't before. And something that I want to touch on with action is there are so many different ways to be active right now. You know, I have a lot of friends that say, you know, I think the protests are great, but protesting isn't for me. And I completely understand that. Protesting isn't for everyone. You know, protesting is depending on the weather. It's hot, you're tired, your feet hurt, your back hurt, your voice hurts because you're yelling. Protesting may not be for everyone, but action can look like different things. It can be protesting, but it can also be donating to organizations. It can be reading books and educating yourself. It can be watching movies. All of the streaming services have some great content out there right now, movies and series specifically geared towards the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's great. So by watching those, or by reading books, or by having conversations, those are all forms of action. I think sometimes people say, well, I'm not protesting, so maybe I'm not doing enough, or I haven't posted on social media, so maybe I'm not doing enough. But your social media posts and donation to an organization is just as important as someone who's been at the front of a protest every single day for the past 23 days.
Yeah. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that was definitely something that I personally was really struggling with right at the beginning of the movement, for a variety of reasons, but especially like still being active duty. Like, I'm really conscious about some things like protesting, right? Because even if I am just going to represent myself, like if something happens, like that's it could be really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's it's a really helpful thing to hear, right? That it's like there are so many ways to take action, and really not discounting the personal work, right? Because that is like how we have to like change just how our entire society works, right?
Right.
Confronting our own biases and thought processes that we have been just trained on. We don't even know that they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all the things. It's little things. It's when you're walking down a street and you see someone, what's your initial gut reaction, and you think to yourself, I was never officially taught that, but that bias exists somewhere inside my body, and it's identifying those and finding out why, digging for the truth and the reason behind those biases. That where the growth really happens. And something that people may or may not have seen, I've seen it a bunch on Instagram, is posts talking about the burnout from activism. It's for someone who maybe has never, and this is probably geared maybe more towards the white community versus any others, but for someone who's never had to be active, or for someone who has never been active when it comes to racial injustice, there is a level of burnout where you're going and you're protesting and you're posting to social media and you're having conversations, and then you realize after a week and a half, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't mentally have this conversation anymore. So I say be kind to yourself, especially in a time like this where you're doing so much learning, because that being kind to yourself is the only way you're going to get through it, and it's the only way that you're going to be able to be an effective ally, because an effective ally is a long-term ally, not just someone that will post something at the start of Pride Month or at the start of Black History Month, and then you never hear from them again about it for the rest of the year.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, man. I'm honestly like so grateful that like we get to have this conversation, like I'm so thankful that this kind of change and growth is happening, and yeah, the burnout stuff is it is real. And I think again, like there's this like burnout plus like the like white guilt thing happening where it's like, but I haven't been doing things for so long. I have to do all the things, but like remembering that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Like we have to
exactly.
Because you're right. Like when the news cycle changes, like we still have to continue pushing. We still have to be an advocate, be an ally.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, because there's going to come a time, and I don't know when that is. It might be in a week, it might be in 2 months, where especially once everything is open to back up and we're back to the new normal of our day-to-day lives, where the news is going to shift from showing videos of protests every day, and then it's going to shift from talking about all of these different crimes and all of the different things that have happened. And that's where that mentality of it's a marathon, not a sprint, comes into play, because you're going to have so many other things. You wake up and you have your breakfast, you run to work, you're at work all day, and you go to the gym after work, then you have happy hour or dinner with someone. So as we fall back into our old cycles, we have to be conscious of including the things that we've learned, including the things that we started to do, and incorporating that into our day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to kind of wrap up. So, if people want to find more of you, or if, you have like resources you want to recommend, like, do you want to shout out some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram. I don't really use anything else. And on Instagram, my Instagram is Anthony _Lewis, Louis. So it's just my first and middle name, Anthony _Lewis. I post a lot of random things, from selfies and outfits to my dog's sleeping and musical theater videos. So you get a wide range of things, all tied in with health and wellness. Hopefully within the next year, there are going to be some exciting personal career changes coming. So maybe follow along on my journey with that. And I actually shared a list of great books and some movies that you can stream on Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. And are you going to share that list with the video?
Yeah,
okay.
So the list will all be in the show notes. And I do want to mention too, something that I've been incorporating in my own journey is anyone that's on my email list, I've added a section called What I'm Learning. And it's just being very transparent of like, here's what I'm reading, here's what I'm watching, and like, here's like the biggest aha I had this week. So, especially for my white audience that's trying to kind of figure things out and have someone to go through that with them, like, I'm there with you.
Yeah. So, if, and I'm super friendly, so I'll normally carry on a conversation. So if you decide to read any of those books or watch any of those movies, those are all books that I've read once or twice, most of them twice. And the movies I've watched multiple times. So, if you want to chat about it, or you want to get, someone new's perspective, or if you just want to talk to me about my experiences, I'd be more than happy to chat with you on Instagram, and we can talk from there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Anthony, so much. It is always so nice to talk to you, but this is extra special, being able to have this conversation. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, and happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
So exciting. And I hope everyone goes out and really takes a look at the resources that you've provided, because I think it's really, really important.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for having me.
Of course.